sure. She's also, in fact, bagged a lot of awards and a lot of titles, I think, from Social Samsa 40 Under 40. She's also a ET Young Leader 2018, and a lot more feathers actually to her cap. So yeah, welcome, Anvesha. I think over to you. Maybe you can start off with giving us an insight into your journey.
Thank you, Meghna, for the introduction, and very excited to be here for this discussion. And I think you pretty much summed up my journey. So, I've been in the digital marketing field for about a decade now. Been on both sides of the table, right from selling our advertising solutions to clients to actually, looking at those solutions to drive business results. So I think it's been an interesting journey, and I'm very much looking forward to the discussion.
Great, super. So I think we're going to dive right in. I think just mentioning once more, I think to our audience, if you guys have questions, feel free to drop it over on our chat and we will take it up as we go. I think someone's also asked if we can record the session. So we're anyway recording it and it will be available on YouTube as well. So you all can watch it even after it's over. Yeah, great, super. So Anvesha, I think diving right in, I think our conversation today is more on FMCG, more on the beauty space in terms of retail. And I think the very first question, of course, given the scenario, we can't skip this, is, a lot has changed over the last 5 months. We, of course, adapted to the new normal now. I think we're all there. We all know how it's been. What do you think has happened in the FMCG space? How has it changed for the good, for the bad? Your points on that.
Yeah, so of course, and it's not going to be like, pre-COVID for a very long time. Like we have had, it's say, you get 21 days to change a habit and, it stays on for a very long time. So I think right from March when the lockdown began to now, we have moved towards a very low touch, like to an almost zero touch economy, right? Because people are very, very conscious about hygiene, safety, social distancing, right? So that is top of mind. And a lot of things that we thought were something which are only luxuries or which we hadn't even thought before have come to us like, essentials for us. So that's one piece, and of course that also has its impact hence on the FMCG, on the retail industry. So a few things, and a few behavioral changes that we've seen. Of course, one is convenience. So it's all about who is accessible to you, right? And which brand can actually fulfill your need in the most convenient manner, because you are not going to go out of your way or going to travel too much to get what you need. So hence convenience becomes an important factor, and hence your distribution channels, the way you're looking at, how to reach the consumers to the doorstep is very important. The other is also at some point, it's been, while of course accessibility, so you might have, gone ahead with a brand that you might not have ever heard of and, purchased. But at the end of it, a brand which has been able to build that salience with you over the years, so the trust on the brand also becomes important. So, your brand building efforts that you've put in all these years, now basically start showing the results when you know that, people are going to go for brands that ensure them the trust and the safety piece, right? And apart from that, I think it's also to do, if you look at, say, the makeup category in particular, like the beauty category, people are wearing masks now. So, of course, makeup did see a dip for a bit, especially in the beginning. But now people are going out more, so it's picking up again. And of course, eye makeup and hair care has really seen an uplift. Right, because people are, that's the most exposed area on the face now, and even in calls like these, right? My eye makeup and my hair becomes the most important aspect as well. So I think that's something that's picked up a lot. And even regimes like skincare, people are staying more at home. They have more time to think about their skin. They are actually, and also when you're like, when you're washing your hands very often, your hands are becoming dry. So cleansing solutions, also solutions to keep yourself hydrated. So those kinds of products are picking up. So you obviously, so what COVID has really taught us is to really see how dynamically the consumer behavior is shifting, and brands that have been able to show agility to traverse this space along with the consumers, ensuring that you're able to provide them with the solutions that are relevant, has been the key. So yeah, just that's what.
Yeah, no, I think a few points, in fact, which you pulled out. I think one is self-care has become such a huge deal today. And I think since people are getting a little more time at home on the weekends as well, your direction, your focus is going towards a little more of taking care of yourself, especially skin and hair care, and I think we've seen a lot of brands grow as well in the last couple of months organically. But I think that sort of brings me to my next question, which is also online to offline, offline to online, right, at the moment. So I think retail stores, of course, took a huge hit, especially in the first 3 months. Of course, now things are slowly going back to normal. But I think a lot of consumers, like you rightly said, luxuries were available at home, which was actually not before and pre-COVID. What do you think of that whole aspect of how rapidly it's moved offline to online? And how do you think offline stores, retail stores are actually, tackling this issue at the moment?
Yes, of course. So that was a huge crisis, because people are no longer walking into the stores, or they want everything at the doorstep. And as I mentioned, so for the brands, some of them have taken the D2C route, like, actually fulfilling the consumer, needs directly by servicing them. Even if it's a temporary move or however. So some food brands I've seen have been doing that. At the same time, I think it's been a great era of innovation, if you see. So, of course, e-commerce has picked up big time. More than 18% of the people actually bought online for the first time. You actually see your parents also getting so warmed up, or, other, people in the family getting warmed up to be buying online, right? Which they would have preferred, probably not preferred earlier. So that's something that's really picked up. There is also I work with the professional division, and salons were shut for a very long time, right? So how do you really look at bringing those, at least the hair care products, home, right? So we started with the whole social commerce model with the salons, where they were actually reaching out to their client base with the the product descriptions, and people could directly place orders because the L'Oreal Professionnel products are available exclusively in salons. So that's one piece that we actually looked at during the lockdown, as to how to really fulfill the needs of the consumer. The other was picking up e-consultation, like how can you get an e-consultation with the hairdressers, having live sessions with the say makeup educators or with hairdressers to actually educate the audience on the hair issues that they have. So it's all about bringing that connect and trying to build that offline element that people were actually getting earlier, how to bring that online, right? That's something that we've heavily looked at building. Another example was we launched a WhatsApp chatbot, which actually gives you a complete consultation on your hair queries, right? And once you go through that consultation, at the end of it, it gives you an option to place order through a salon online to buy the product, and it's fulfilled by a delivery partner like a Danzo. And or you could, even if your salons are open near you, then you can actually go visit, book an appointment, because appointment booking has picked up a lot. People are not walking in without appointment at all, because you have the social distancing norms. So when you see these behaviors changing, then you have to really keep adapting your initiatives and your tactics accordingly.
Absolutely. In fact, WhatsApp was very interesting, I think, when you mentioned that. So I think maybe to know a little more about that, how did you all go about integrating WhatsApp with your business model? So like you rightly said, there were online e-consultations, but you're also sort of selling on WhatsApp, because there are product catalogs on WhatsApp for business today. Or is that something you're looking at? Or how is that going?
So what we used WhatsApp more as a channel was just to kind of connect The consumer with the salon, right? Because, you know, if you look at it, a typical salon client base is very referral based, and there is also a lot of, you know, it's a very walk-in based model, right? Now, if we want to make sure that how do we build that online connect of a client with a salon, and ensure that, you know, of course, they're missing their shampoos and the serum, and how do we get access to it? So just to build that accessibility. So basically, and also, you know, for people who are looking at hair care concerns right now, you know, if you're seeing hair fall, if you're seeing a lot of dandruff, and you want to really look at solving your query, and you can't walk into a salon, or at least you know what to buy before you know, walk in, so that, you know, spend less time. So you actually can go through that whole consultation piece, which is built in according to, you know, what exactly, what is the kind of query that you're looking at. It goes through a whole consultation, then gives you a recommendation, and then you can it gives you a salon locator. So basically, it tells you which salons are in the list of partner salons, whichever is the closest to you and can fulfill your order. You can call them up, and then you can book, you know, your order. Or so basically, it's basically facilitating that interaction between the consumer and the salon.
That's actually very, very interesting. I think that's commendable. Something that I've honestly not come across with any of the other brands. So that's definitely
Yeah,
great.
it's the first of its kind in the beauty industry in India. So yes.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think kudos to you guys on that. Yeah, absolutely. I think initially that exactly brings me to my next question, which is in terms of communication. Of course, you've given us an insight into WhatsApp and how you'll have used that channel. But in terms of your social media, or in terms of digital marketing, in terms of performance, how have you all gone about communicating with your customers? Especially, I think in the first few months, given a lot of things were changing, people were adapting to it. How did it work for you all when it comes to communication?
Yes, so I think if nothing else, it's actually strengthened our communication with the consumers, you know, because we have been, you know, really active about talking about different solutions that they would. So it's all about adding value, right? Any communication, it's about adding value. It's not just, so, you know, there was a thin line in this COVID situation between looking too opportunistic versus being too silent. That means that you don't care at all, right? So the brands had to tread that thin line that, you know, we should be empathetic to the
Yeah,
situation, to our stakeholders, to consumers, but at the same time have a voice, and, you know, be able to add value in whatever way we can. So of course, for the first, you know, couple of months, we didn't look at anything which was to do with, like, you know, a more transactional or a commercial angle. It was more to do with, you know, educating the consumers. Like, we did an ask me anything with one of our hair educators, that you're sitting at home, what are the kind of hair queries that you have, we'll solve
right.
this for you. We had you know, sessions with our educators on various topics, right? And even with hairdressers, for a hairdresser community, because we have a large community of hairdressers, and how do we really engage with them? They are also an important, you know, stakeholder for us. So
Right.
educating them, conducting those virtual trainings for hairdressers, you know, how do you really get them? We had sessions for them where they would talk about, you know, different techniques, and, you know, upskilling them in this time period was something that we've really looked at very strongly. And for consumers, again, it was about, you know, how do you really bring those hair tips to them, busting some hair myths, right?
Yeah.
Or some makeup tips for them to be able to just engage them while they are at home, and whatever they would be really doing at home. So it has to be realistic, it has to be really relatable. If you don't have anything relevant to talk about, then it's okay to not talk about it, like, just, you know, have
Don't
that period
force
of
it.
silence. That's perfectly
Yeah.
fine. But it's I mean, we don't believe in just, you know, looking at something that's trending, so you have to jump right in and, you know, talk about it whatsoever. So I think that's something that we've looked at.
Makes sense. In fact, we have a question also from the audience by Siddharth. So his question is: is the current chain sustainable? And if so, what are the metrics you would like, you think a brand should actually be tracking in order to be able to differentiate between a permanent and temporary change? Are there certain metrics which you all have been tracking over the last couple of, months very closely?
So I think it's more. Um, more to do with the consumer behavior tracking and like, using methods like social listening, industry
Right.
analysis more than anything else.
Right.
Of course, you want to look at a lot of, the larger ecosystem changes that are happening in terms of the consumer behavior. Internally, I think the metrics will always be your business metrics that you track in terms of sales, retention rate, repeat rate, lifetime value. So of course, those are the kind of metrics that always will drive business, right?
Correct.
So they don't really change, but of course, or whether it is these business metrics or it is your media metrics, which are more to do with engagement, with your reach, and what are how are you really looking at it. So I think it's more a mix of that, but it's just about being able to see where you're seeing a dip, and then how do you solve. So there has to be a lot of connect between the market reality and what you're doing, right? Because when you talk about digital revolution, you're doing so many things on digital, but as you said, it has to tie back to that offline behavior as well, because for a lot of FMCGs, it's not like a complete online system, right? So having a hyper local strategy where because we were looking at a market level strategy, not just in terms of, say, even a city. It's even about certain pin codes. You have those containment zones, so you have to look at it at that granular perspective and realign your KPIs. So for some markets, you would look at KPIs like that. For some markets, you would look at what is the level of distribution that I can actually realistically have. So those are the kinds of things that you're going to look at.
So I think you did mention hyperlocal as well. So I think very interesting thought is vernacular marketing is growing drastically right today. So is that something you think brands should be adapting? What is your take on vernacular?
So I think vernacular, it is, of course, it's been like, the 3 V's of digital now: video, vernacular, and voice. So vernacular is, of course, something that you would always look at in content. If so it has to be relevant for you as well. You don't just use vernacular for the heck of it. Like, to give you an example, a super luxury brand, for example, might not use vernacular because, the positioning is that. But a brand that is massy, which is really looking to talk to an audience in a certain manner, might use vernacular. So it's obviously a fitment that you have to see. But more than 60% of the content consumption happens on vernacular or videos. So you would want to look at, especially if you're looking for a content that's to be created, which is, say, long form, or which is something that you want to drive a very regional level message as well. I think it works very well. So yes, so I think it's a localized strategy which is pretty much relevant now as well.
Sure. So I think one more question on the chat from Casey is, which online channels have been working for you all through the lockdown period? Are there any particular ones you want to highlight? Some great metrics you've seen?
So social media, definitely, for sure, because of course social media as well is like one of the key channels for communication in times like these, because it also allows for a two-way communication. So as I said, like live sessions, the Instagram live sessions, the Facebook live sessions, they allow for two-way communication, and that's the best way to connect with the audience, and to drive away any fears, any challenges, any concerns also to address. That's the best channel, even from a point of view of complaint handling or anything to do with that. I think social media becomes a very, very important channel, and hence we've looked at a conversational commerce kind of space as well at this point. So I think social media is one key channel for us, and it's been more about then, of course, while looking at reach and engagement, but at the same time, we've also utilized the medium to actually look at the lower funnel metrics as well, in terms of how we can really look at converting into a conversion funnel, or metrics like that, because these platforms also now give you the even videos give you that lever to actually get to the final sale. So wherever possible, if there is an e-com element that can be added to it, or if there is an element of say salon locator that can be added for you, I think we've completely leveraged that, not only operated at, the top funnel of it. So I think that's really worked for us.
Right. I think from your conversation, I'm also able to gauge that full funnel marketing as a strategy has also played a very important role for you all. Is there, a message that you'd like to put out there for brands in terms of why full funnel marketing as a marketing strategy itself is important, and what the benefits could be from that?
So I think it is more about looking at a comprehensive approach where you're looking at building an awareness and a consideration, and then moving it to the final conversion. I think otherwise it becomes it's not to say that a pure play awareness is something that the brand should never do. Of course, you do indulge, if you have a product launch, you're going to do like a lot of awareness led. So of course, the skew could be in one way or the other, depending on your objective. So it's not like you cannot do one independent of the other. But in the long term, and for a complete brand strategy, when you're looking at from a digital standpoint, it's important to look at what is the final metric that you're chasing, and what is the business outcome of it. Because it's very important to be able to tie it back, because at some point then it will become a very disjointed strategy where you're just trying to drive top funnel and you have absolutely no visibility where it's going, and then you'll start questioning yourself whether this is really working. So of course, and it also doesn't always mean, like you're looking at a complete sale. You might look at maybe like a brand lift study at times to see how the brand consideration metrics have moved, or how, whether it's really impacted the top of mind for the consumer. So I don't think it's only to do with a hardcore sale, but there has to be a little bit of, what the differentiation that you make between vanity metrics and clarity metrics, right? So vanity metrics will be your media efficiencies, which you are driving on the forefront. But the clarity metrics are the ones that you actually define, that how is it really translating to that business goal. So sometimes it's not always possible to directly do it. So maybe do a test and control, like run a full-fledged awareness ad in one region, don't run it in the other region, and then see what's the uplift in the sale. You can even look at it that way. It doesn't have to be completely on digital, but I think it's important to somewhere tie that back in.
Sure, absolutely. Makes sense. I think also when it comes to this part of tying everything in, I think you'll do a lot of TV advertisements as well. So I'm sure there's a lot of tracking that takes place over there as well. And how do you all sort of see, the metrics change? I think when there's a spike, how do you all go after that audience? Is there something you'd like to share from that point of view?
So I think there's a lot of integration between, TV and say TV and YouTube planning, TV and OTT planning, right? You always have these now, especially in the pandemic, there has been more of, TV plus deals that have come in, from these players. So of course, it's TV is no longer operating as a standalone medium. You always amp it up with ample digital ammunition to be able to amplify it. Right. And what you typically do is like kind of then you look at TV as more a broad-based awareness medium, and then you try to use digital to reiterate the messaging and then bring it further down the funnel. Right. So you're doing a lot of, and there is a lot of models now available for you to really look at the integrated, GRP, or the overall reach in a digital plus a TV medium. So basically, it gives you a comprehensive view. So it also helps you look at the entire ecosystem like that. So I think that's also evolving very much into, so the lines are actually blurring. It's no longer, one medium and the other medium. It's all very, very integrated. I don't think digital marketing is going to exist per se in the next, like even 5 years. Like it's going to be just marketing, right? You're not going to call it digital. Like you don't call it a mobile anymore. You just call it a phone. Phone by default means a mobile, right? So I think it's going to be that way.
Yeah. No, totally agree. I think that's a very interesting thought, actually. I think, of course, that was one. But I think the other question is also, so FMCG brands are using influencers to full capacity at the moment, right? So influencer marketing has grown over the last 5 or 6 years, and especially over the last year or two massively. What are your thoughts on that in terms of making sure influencers are part of your marketing strategy, especially for FMCG brands?
Yeah, of course. I think they are a part of the strategy across. For beauty, of course, it is it is a very very important piece of the puzzle. But I think any brand, I saw a very interesting video by Everest. Which was done with the Diljit Dosanjh, where he was actually cooking something, and it was very very quirky. I think for a brand like Everest to really do that, I think it was very very interesting. So I think
Right.
it's always influencers. Of course, you need to. It's about using them in the right manner.
Right.
Uh, right. It is not just that. It should just not be a tick box that I have to have influencer as a plan, as a part of
Right.
the plan. I think it has to be more about what are you trying to drive out of that engagement, right? And what is the objective of the whole it's not just about distributing your product to some 200 influencers and asking them to talk about it in a very standard format. It's not that it's not done, and it doesn't work. It does, but
Yeah.
it's not the right way to always go about it that way, right? During this the last few months, we did a solidarity campaign for hairdressers, to be able to tell them that what they mean to the clients. We all, from a study, we found that 56% of the people actually missed going to the salon,
Right. Yeah.
and meet their favorite, because your hairdresser is like your pal, right? You've been going to them for years. And so if we ran this very beautiful campaign called Love is in the Hair, where influencers like Lisa Hayden and Sophie Chaudhary were talking to their hairdressers and writing them love letters,
Yeah.
and then the hairdressers replied back. It was a very beautiful bond that was shared,
Yeah.
and it was all about that. So that the
Right.
essence of the campaign is that, and it's not just and then it was organically driven by a lot of people who picked it up and shared their own stories with the hairdressers. The other piece that
Right.
very interestingly took up is with the Kalki in India, where she talked about hair color, how it is very easy to do a box hair, hair coloring. There are
Right.
a lot of brands who are leveraging live sessions to actually sell online. Like, while the live session is happening with an influencer, there is a link there where people can buy. So it can be leveraged in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
It's just that you have to define your objective very clearly and make sure that you stick to that, and then go about your strategy.
Absolutely. I think that's very important. But again, I think a very, very interesting concepts. I think love is in the hair is again very interesting. So I think I'm sure that would have done really well. I think another point is, I think so a lot of, I think you mentioned this earlier as well, Anvesha, a lot of our marketing strategies that we put together for a brand need to basically tie down to what a consumer actually wants to hear. And I think I read it very recently also that if you don't give your consumers something they want to hear, then you're probably not, really marketing your product itself right. What is your take on that? And at L'Oreal in particular, how do you all, conceptualize communication? How do you all go after that particular thought process? Do you all do a lot
So,
of analysis when it comes to consumers as well?
sorry, I
How
didn't
does
get
it?
the last line.
I think you'll do a lot of analysis as well when it comes to your consumers.
So yeah, I think it's both ways. I partly agree on it. I mean, it's not like always the consumer needs to tell the brand, say what beauty means to them, right?
Right,
Of course,
right,
we need to know. It's also sometimes a brand also sets trends for the consumers.
right,
Saying that this is what is, say, the hair trends, or so especially in India, like when we did we did a hair trend campaign about a couple of years ago, which was called the Parisian Cool, and we actually saw a lot of uplift and searches happening for that, and we saw from our salon partners that people and coming were asking for that particular look. So
right.
it was something that was a trend that was that was built into the market, and we brought that cognizance in the minds of people that, okay, this is something that I can look at. So it's
Yeah,
also about that. The other is, of course, always listening to the consumer. So as I said, always keeping our ears on the ground through different channels, whether it be through, social listening gives us an excellent way to do that, right?
Yeah.
So you can have an always an approach about seeing what the consumers are talking about the brand, and have you know what people think about your brand, what are the trending conversations and topics. So of course that's always there. Then
Right.
of course you do carry out some formal research. So I think consumer is always the central focal point. Consumer centricity is what drives the entire brand alive, and I think that's something that uh, you cannot ignore, right? And it's also about servicing them. Like after they bought the product, they have some issues. It's also about educating them, right? Like, how many
Right.
people in India really know how to use a conditioner? How much time should we leave the conditioner on? What is the difference between a mask and a conditioner,
Yeah.
right? So there's a lot of factors that go into it, right? From it's not just about developing the interest in the brand. It's also
Right.
about developing the category, how to really understand the consumer behavior and sensitize them to the beauty. Like skincare is something that's really evolving in India. While
Right.
you see in Korea, it's like a 7 product skin regime at one go, right? In
Yeah.
India, it's at the most 3, and that to an evolved audience, right? So,
Right.
there are these ways of really looking at what the consumer wants and
Right.
what we can get for the consumer as well.
Absolutely. That's a very interesting thought. I think education in India as well, when it comes to skin and hair care, I think a lot of women and men, they're not aware of, what are the benefits actually of particular products and how to use them. So yeah, I think that's a great point. I think there's one more question from Siddharth, which is what is the importance or the ratio of budget which you have placed on different platforms, and how do you all go about deciding that?
So I think it's a very it could change on a week to week basis,
Okay.
So there is no standard that you would look at it anytime, right? It
Right.
all depends on the brand objective.
Right.
You know that there are certain channels that work well, say for when you're looking at a complete direct conversion, right? So if
Right.
it is more intent driven that you're looking at, maybe you would focus more on, say, a Google search. If you are talking about educating the audience, then you would look at YouTube, because people are searching at a lot of YouTube searches. If you're
Right.
looking at a complete, if it's a video of awareness, and it could be social media, YouTube, different channels. So I mean, there is no one size fits all, and there is not even a standard way of looking at it. The idea is that you have your objectives very clear, and uh, what objectives can drive your budget. And I also believe very strongly in the 70-20-10 rule, like 70% of your budget you put on something that will absolutely work for you, because you know that these are the tried and tested methods.
Right.
20%, you try it on something which is just amplifying it a little bit, maybe trying out a new channel. And
Yeah.
with the 10%, you just go wild. Like try something that you've never tried before. Just, maybe it might not work, but that's the
Correct.
way you test and learn and you grow, because there is just absolutely no growing without, failing fast, or maybe just testing and learning and doing the pilot. So I think it's very important to keep experimenting. So don't
Right.
look at your budgets in the sense that, okay, every time I want to put 20% here, 50% here. It shouldn't be like that. It should always be, okay, right now, what is trending, what is evolved, what does my audience really want? So it has to be matched with the objective and the kind of audience that you're talking to.
Right.
So it's always in that sense.
Sure, that's great. I think there's one more question. So, any particular campaign that worked really well for you all? Can you share a few learnings from that campaign?
Okay, so I'll share probably an example from Asian Paints,
Right.
where we did a campaign called Where the Heart Is, right? And it was more to cover celebrity homes. Okay, so
Right.
we had this format existing like since years. On TV, if you would have seen Har Ghar Kuch Kehta Hai,
Yeah.
that used to actually, play on the nostalgia factor, talk about the beauty of homes, the emotion that is home. So the crux was always that, and that's what the
Right.
crux of Asian Paints is, right? Now, when in about 2017, when we were really looking at this format, we thought, okay, now we're talking to an audience, first of all, that lives more in the present, like the younger generation. They are slightly more looking at what is here right now, right here, right? So the attitude is that way. The second is also they look at the home a little differently. Like, they're looking at nooks and corners. Like, this is my space, my corner. This is how a very, very personalized look for their home, which reflects their personality. Is no longer about only those gold chandeliers, and it's all about how does my space define me, right? And when you want to talk to that kind of an audience, and the third is, of course, a medium of consumption is heavily also digital. Not to say that TV is not consumed in that manner, but digital makes a great place for snackable video content, right? So we brought that series online, and we started these snackable series of 15-minute videos where we covered homes of celebrities, and it performed extremely well to the extent that, of course, we did promote it, but 20% of the discovery of the content still happens organically, and it's still there, and there's a lot of discovery happening even now. So you can imagine, if you've done YouTube campaigns, you would know that when you do a YouTube campaign and you see the campaign, see the split of the channel, you will always see about a 90 or a 95% contribution by paid media. You will never see that the views in the last few times have actually come so much from an organic discovery as well, and that also with the shelf life of that long, right? So I think the entire understanding of the psyche of the audience that we were trying to look at, and of course looking at a very digital form of content creation, like the ABCD framework that you have, where you're looking at, so typically in a TV form, you look at a spike in this, it's like a sinusoidal wave. You start, you build up, and then kind of and then you end with a bang. Now here it is like a wave which needs to keep on going up and down, in terms of you cannot have the person leave the attention, because the attention span is extremely low on digital. So you will need to have high points throughout the video, and you have to carefully, it's a scientific approach that you look at, right? So I think that was one campaign where we were able to successfully bring it from an offline medium to an online medium, understand what goes into the building of an online content, and as I said, the results, of course, were also phenomenal. So yeah, that's one campaign that I wanted to talk about.
Great, super. So I think we have quite a few questions. I think I just had one question in mind. I think, of course, we're speaking about the FMCG space, but is there any other sector, any other industry that you feel has benefited majorly from COVID, or any points that sort of come into your mind in the last 5 months? Anything from that angle?
I think online education, definitely. That's the first that comes to my mind. People are looking to upskill themselves, not just because we have more bandwidth at hand. I don't think I have more bandwidth at hand. I mean, really not. But still, you are making that effort because you know that the world is changing so fast, and you don't, we all love dinosaurs, but we don't want to be them, right? I mean, we just... we want to really be able to evolve in our professional journey, and also as human beings. So I have done a lot of courses myself personally on LinkedIn, like on resilience, for example, because these are the kind of traits that you need to develop. So both in terms of soft skills as well as courses. I've seen a lot of people opting for digital marketing courses. Like, people have reached out to me, and people have been checking what are the kind of courses that we could do. So I think people are really looking at upskilling big time. So there is that one. I think also the delivery partners, say like a Dunzo, for example, or even Swiggy, like, who have really been able to fulfill the needs. So Swiggy has been partnering with even like Amul, right? Which was not present before, to, even or deliver paneer and milk. So it's everyone is looking at a highly innovative way of looking at it. And if you're able to, I don't think, honestly, this is my personal opinion, I don't think that you should be at the mercy of what's happening outside always, right? You have to look at it, how do I reinvent, innovate? Because demand will definitely pick up. It might have gone down for a few categories as of now, but it's going to pick up. But at the same time, the behavior has changed. So are you adapting yourself to that is something that I think is very critical.
So I think adaptation and resilience, I think these are the 2 points that I think, the last 5 months have taught us all, definitely. I think one more feedback, and I think one more question rather, is a lot of course, especially in FMCG and in beauty, there's a lot of customer feedback that you get on your products, right? Of course, L'Oreal is a huge brand and a lot of trust and loyalty attached with it. But how do you sort of tackle negative comments, negative feedback if and when they do come in? Is that something you all have also seen?
I think, as a person who's driven brand building for about 10 years now, I think negative comments are the best way to know about your brand or, what. So I think it's always welcome. It's never like, you should look at negative comments in a bad light. And you should also understand that, it's human nature. Like, how many times do you go and post a positive review if you've had a great experience? But you will definitely go and, post a complaint or negative experience immediately. That's just basic human nature. We are cynical, by nature. So it's always like that. So it's okay. It always, happens. Imagine about companies, telecom companies, I don't know what's the level of complaints that they get because of the sheer service of, sheer nature of the service or the product, right? So of course, it is like that. But I think at the same time, the key to handling negative comments is that be empathetic, and customer is always right. At the end of the day, they have spent money on your product and your service and nothing without them. Like the easiest the way that they can blow you out of competition is just go to the other player to buy stuff, right? So you would rather want to invest time in them, because if they stop investing time in you, then you're so it's very important to understand what is genuinely the concern and have a mindset of really solving the problem. Easier said than done, obviously, but digital channels do give us at least leeway that we can immediately respond. We don't have to wait, and that's also the expectation that you have to really manage, that it can't be like, 3 days before you actually go back to them. So you have to answer to them, in the next few hours of them reaching out, right? And think of channels that can really look at it, how do you look at it in a more organized form? And, instead of sending machine-like responses, can you make it sound more human when you're looking at those responses? So I think it's a lot to do with the attitude with which you handle it, and also the kind of approach that you're using. So, and you take that as a feedback and you put that in, and sometimes it gives you great insights about what your product is not doing. So it's a very unrelated example to FMCG, but the example I can think of is not in India, but Barclays a few years ago had launched an app called Ping, where it was it was basically kind of a wallet where you could transfer money online very seamlessly. Okay, and obviously their entry age was 18 plus. And suddenly they started getting so much backlash from people saying that, students are trying to get money from their parents, and they're not able to do it because, you have and they immediately saw it. And within 2 days of launching, they saw it and they rectified, and they, made it for 15 plus. So I think it's also to sometimes gives you an opportunity to identify what you can really improve, and you should look at it that way.
Because it's direct feedback from the customer, right? Because they're telling you what they like. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, otherwise it's so difficult. Imagine if they were not coming in. The worst is to not know. Like I've sold you a product and you're thinking it's really bad in your head, but I don't know. That's worse. So I would rather want to know and solve for it. So I think that's the key.
That's a good way to look at it. I think a good attitude. Honestly, I've not thought about it that way, but that's great. Yeah, for sure. I think one more question on the group from Srinidhi is that in the beauty industry, we generally tend to try out products, right? So I think even when you visit a retail store that is in person, you have a habit of trying it out. Today, when you buy online, you're not sure if the lipstick color is going to be what you wanted, is the hair color going to be what you wanted or not. So you're not very, very 100% sure about it. How do you think that has changed? I think, in fact, I was very recently reading something today on video shopping as well, which is in fact taking up. I think it was huge in China, and now it's slowly, I think, jewelry clients are starting to actually use that method. So what is your thought on that?
Yeah, I think you should go check out some of the virtual try-ons that even L'Oreal has, come up with. Not trying to sell my products here, but just, just giving you a perspective that I think that is a very valid concern. I think it is very, very important, not just for beauty. I think there are a lot of, players like jewelry, for example, where you don't want to buy without trying on, because that's the whole fun, right? I mean, if I'm not able to do it, then it's like, how do you try on clothes, apparel? I think those are the kind of things that you have a lot of interest in trying on. So how we've tried to solve is by using this virtual try-on. So even, partnering with Amazon, where you can try on a particular lipstick shade and see how it looks in you, to actually seeing, hair color shades. There is a try-on, app called Style My Hair Pro, which the hairdressers use. When you actually go, they can give you a complete hair consultation, right? And then now we are looking to see how we can actually enable it in a way, online as well. So I think those are the ways in which you want to look at helping people get the experience sitting at home as well, because obviously it's a great boost to the consideration. So even in retail stores, what we are trying is, piloting is trying to see if we can have like a virtual try on, where there's a mirror and, a virtual mirror where you can just try on the lipstick and see how it's looking on you. You can just select the shades. So you don't have to really, ask, do we have the tester for this shade? Oh, this tester doesn't look like I want to, so it's, you're actually solving for all those issues as well, even in the stores, offline stores.
Yeah. So Anvesha, actually, while you're talking, the next question is, AR, VR, there's video marketing, there's so much going on and so much that we've adapted to over maybe just a year, and more so in the last 5 months. How do you think retail stores are going to take this? Are you going to see, we've already seen, of course, a few shut down because of really hard circumstances, but do you still think people are going to want to walk into the store? I think as consumers, do you think that experience is going to matter?
So I think that trend had begun picking up even before COVID, right? It's been like retail is more and more moving towards experiential marketing. You're no longer only going there to buy a product. If it's very transactional, you might as well want to buy it online, right? You may want to make the effort of walking in and really buying it. But that's why, Amazon has those, fast checkouts, and, you can just walk in and get the product, right? Where you know that you won't be spending too much time. Having said that, when you're really going into a store and spending time, even malls, for example, for that matter, not just retail stores, I think there has to be a level of interactivity, a level of engagement that needs to be built. So far, it's been done through, like, say, events, or, looking at some innovative ways of, but I think more and more digital technology is going to play a role. I think there was a very interesting example where Nike in the US had set up I'm forgetting the name right now, what the store was called, but it had all the most favorited products of Nike online, which were displayed on the in the store, and the price also dynamically changed as it was changing online, right? So you could actually pick it up there, and it was a very interesting concept of bringing that whole online intelligence to offline, because these are the most, so it would only stock the products. No, not Nike Air. It's I think. Sorry, I'm not remembering the name right now, but maybe I can share with you all later. But it kind of really, in a way stocks the hero products based on their online intelligence, and they're only stocking those products offline. And you also go with the mindset, oh, these are the most popular products, right? I am walking into a store which has the best of the best, right? So, I mean, it's also to leverage that journey together. Also, like, if you're walking in, like, if the beauty assistant already knows about some certain journey that you've already had online, if, they know their preferences, or there's something there's a profile that's built for you, it makes your interaction also much easier, right? So it's about bringing that journey together. It's not just about building experience. It's also about how do you make it more seamless and make consumer feel that you're getting a personalized experience. But of course, you have to take care that it doesn't look like, so there's again that privacy versus personalization. Like, you can't be too intrusive. Like, there was that incident in, I think, Target, where they actually went back to they promoted to a father about some pregnancy products, and he then realized that his teenage girl was pregnant, because she was in the aisle. They were actually monitoring going to those sections, and they sent some offers, and he didn't know about it. So it's like a blunder. Like, you can't, so you have to be very cognizant of where you're drawing the line. But at the same time, people do appreciate personalization. Like we sometimes wonder, oh, why is this ad even being shown to me? It's not even relevant. Like we have the mindset that I don't want to see something that's not relevant, but at the same time, I don't want to share too much data. So we're in that dichotomy, both as consumers and brands right now. So yeah.
Makes sense. I think you've got to know where to sort of draw the line. Absolutely. I think one more very interesting question from Rishabh on our chat is, as an FMCG brand for cosmetic product categories in particular, how critical is it to manage a brand-owned e-com strategy versus leveraging aggregators such as Nykaa and other platforms?
So I think it's more of a business decision. Because you when you're looking at building something which is a complete D2C, it is also to then how do you get the traffic to your website, also managing if you choose to manage it yourself, how do you manage the distribution, delivery. So it's not just about just listing the products, right? It has a whole lot of operational elements that come along with it, and also it's a choice that the business makes depending on where the priorities lie and what is the long-term objective, right? So at times you would see brands who are happy to list their products on aggregators, because that's what works, and you're getting the accessibility and the discoverability of the products. And anyways, people are going to say an Amazon or a Nykaa or a Flipkart, and they will get the products there. So I am anyways getting to sell to the consumer. Should I really invest in building my own ecosystem? That's more of a very strategic direction that the brand wants to take, and that's something that that's a larger goal to have. So I think so it's
sure. Sounds good. In fact, I have a couple of questions more when it comes to, I think, the team. And I think a lot has changed for us at work. Not so much, of course, marketing strategy, but how would you say our work cultures have changed, especially at L'Oreal as well? And how have you guys sort of tackled working from home? How has it been in the last couple of months?
So it's not been very easy, for anyone. In their own ways, everyone has a challenges. I have a 2-year-old baby at home, so thankfully she didn't really come in to say hi for this one. But you usually have, So I think it's very important for companies also to embrace that. For organizations to respect that fact. We got an email. It was a very heartwarming email when our MD, Amijan, he actually wrote to us in a communication and said that it's perfectly fine for your kids to be a part of the meetings and waving hi in between. We know that that's the world that we're living in right now. So don't be shy to do that. And I think that's the culture that organizations must embrace. So I think one is, of course, giving the employees. I think it's becomes more of an outcome versus an output, right? You're looking at what is the kind of outcome that you're looking to drive, rather than checking in whether the person has worked for 8 hours or not, or 10 hours or not, or 12. It doesn't matter. What are you really driving at the end of the day? What is the kind of result you're able to achieve as a team is very important. Collaboration is not very easy. I can just walk up to someone in office and say hi and, check a few things. Right now I have to check the calendar, send an invite to be able to discuss something, which is not even like going to take 10 minutes, but I have to do that. So I think it's not very easy to maneuver. And if you have a leadership that supports you, it's great. The other is also from the perspective of it's giving the opportunity to a lot of people in tier 2 towns to actually engage. I've seen one of my friends got a website built sitting, who was somebody who was sitting, in some town in UP, right? And it was like perfect work. He's like, I'm going to work with this guy for all my website related work. And I think now we are actually becoming more open to the culture of, say, maybe a gig economy, looking at, a remote working style where that FaceTime is something that can be managed. At the same time, it's not like something that you want to do permanently. I mean, personally, it's you do miss the team, you miss the FaceTime, you miss the interaction that you have with the team. So I think it's gonna more blend in as we go forward. But at the same time, it's gotten a lot of opportunities and opened our minds. Like a lot of meetings could just be emails. And now we understand that, and it's going to save a lot of time when we go back to office. So I think, it's been a complete shift in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've just, adapted to it, and we've been, like you rightly said, been a lot more open to working with different teams. Like, example, we have offices in 3 cities, but it's all just one right now. So definitely. I think we have about 5 minutes left, but I think I have one last question in mind, and that is, I think, Anvesha, you've had extensive experience when it's come to marketing, and I think you've been a young marketing professional yourself. You've achieved great heights. Is there anything that you want to put out there to all the young marketers in terms of, a message or a learning that you've taken from the last couple of years of your experience?
Sure. Okay. So I think few of the things that I would like to share is one, that in the first few years, just focus on developing yourself and building yourself. And I would say, as long as like 5 years, just focus on how much you can really experiment. Not by experiment, I don't mean that you need to keep switching companies every year. That's not the point. But you need to really be able to look at what is it that you like doing and try to open your mind to that, because it takes you some time to realize, so even I had that, we live in that bubble when we go, like, we do an MBA or we do a degree, and then we go and we think that we're going to be making like strategic plans, we'll be driving like, the business. And so, and what you do is, really work on Excel sheets to start with. And that's where you learn, when you move from that execution mindset and you really get into the deep, get your hands dirty, is when you really understand. And hence, when you're moving on that journey, then you're able to always switch gears between a strategic and an executional mindset. So don't think of, getting looking at it in a way that, oh, I'm not doing something which is rewarding enough, I am not really doing something that I thought I would, right? So take it like that, take it that spirit. I think focus on the learning and then go on like that. And one especially I want to point out to women, because ever since I've had a baby, I've had a lot of thoughts about, and I see a lot of women around. Whenever you are in that life stage, whether it's just getting newly married or you're having a kid, don't hesitate to ask for support, whether it be from your peers, your colleagues, your managers, or your family. Because if you don't ask, the answer is always no, right? So sometimes we think that I can't manage. You will find ways to manage. Just think about how you can do it and seek that support. Be very proactive in seeking the support, seeking the mentorship, because it's all that. And the third thing is, I think networking really helps. It just helps you to not just get great career opportunities. Of course, that's always there, but also in terms of broadening your horizon. When you talk to a variety of people, you kind of have build a perspective that's broad enough, and that kind of also helps the corporate journey, right? So I think these are a few things that I have learned in my journey and wanted to share.
I think that's great. I think one last question: what do you read up or follow to update yourself on trends? Are there any particular sites that you visit?
Actually, I think I just read most of the, I read ET BrandEquity on a regular basis. And I read a lot of, very technical kind of, so I'm a huge fan of Neil Patel's blog. I read Neil Patel's blog a lot. I read like, every month the updates on Adespresso as to what are the social. So I try to look at more like, one is the industry based news. And I think the fact is that I actually, because discovery is so easy, you start reading something and then you get something else. So you basically don't have to really particularly subscribe to one newsletter. You just kind of, or one particular portal, right? You can always, browse your way through it, and you can really look at your interest. But it's very important to be updated. And I think that's important. I invest a lot of time in just knowing about the updates, because you want to be in the know of what's happening with these platforms. So you don't want to miss out on any developments that happen there. Otherwise, you might not know. So yeah, I look at it that way.
Great, super. I think it's been a super insightful session. Thank you so much, I think, for being here and being a part of it. And yeah, it was great to have you, Anvesha. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Meghna. Bye.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for making it.